A new bill introduced in Congress aims to bring UFC-style regulation of boxing. A major change to the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 is being introduced through a new bipartisan bill in Congress that could clear the way for UFC-style promotion in the sport of boxing. The Muhammad Ali Act, the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, which was endorsed by the Association Boxing Commission, was presented on Wednesday by U.S. Representatives Brian Jack and Sharice David. David is a former MMA fighter who was elected to represent the state of Kansas in Congress back in 2019. Under the proposed legislation, the update to the Professional Boxing Safety Act would allow for the creation of united boxing organizations, which would serve as an alternative to the current sanctioning bodies like the WBA, WBC, and WBF. The proposed bill would allow UBOs to effectively operate just like the UFC does in the sport of MMA. The language below spells out how UBOs would work differently from the traditional boxing model. UBO means an association, a league, or centralized industry organization in the private sector that organizes a pro boxing match in a system in which a boxer under contract with such association, league, or centralized industry organization competes against another such boxer pursuant to unified rules. Bro, what the fuck am I reading? Okay, so I guess what this is the UBO would basically become the UFC of boxing. Hmm. The UBO wouldn't just be the UFC of boxing, it would replace the WBA, WBC, and IBF. It would be an alternative. So the WBO would be the sanctioning body. Versus right now, you got the sanctioning bodies. As a former MMA fighter, I know firsthand the physical and financial risks that come with stepping into the ring. This bipartisan bill is about giving professional boxers the protections, opportunities, and freedom of choice they deserve. I'm proud to work across the aisle to help strengthen the future of American boxing and ensure athletes are treated fairly and safely. Interesting. A lot of people are against this. In addition to the creation of UBOs, the proposed amendment would also establish a minimum per round payment due to boxers at $150 is insane. $150 a round, 12 rounds max, 150 times 12. $1,800. Is that true? $1,800 is what you would make minimum for a fight, for a championship fight. So you don't even do championship fights at the minimum, right? So I mean, you're gonna make probably like $1,500. While that might not sound like much, many states don't have a minimum set up, so promoters are allowed to pay whatever they want. which typically affects boxers early in their careers. Part of the bill also establishes higher insurance coverage for fighters. But the main crux of the bill comes down to creating the UBOs, which is touted as a way to add new health and safety protections, as well as comprehensive anti-doping testing programs and strict anti-betting policies under the bill. UBOs would not charge boxers any fees for placement in the rankings or the right to participate in championship bouts. Yeah, because boxers do have to pay fees to each organization they fight for. So if you're the WBA and WBO and WBC champ, you got to pay fees to all the sanctioning bodies. So they're saying the boxers and the champions wouldn't have to pay a fee to the sanctioning body. But again, I think whatever they pay, they still make more than what they will make by not having to pay that, if you feel me. The Association of Boxing Commission's Board of Directors is in unanimous support of the new Muhammad Ali Act, of the new Muhammad Ali Boxing Revival Act. This new legislation provides much needed updates to the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996, but enhances the medical standards that protect boxers, establishing a national minimum payment per round and defining national minimum health insurance requirements. This bill will mitigate the exploitation of the debut fighter and of all professional fighters that participate in the sweet science of pugilism. While the Muhammad Ali Act, which was made law in 2000, wouldn't be altered, overall updates to the way government oversight has handled boxing has long been in the works after TKO Group Holdings, parent company to the UFC, announced plans to get involved in the sport of boxing. TKO Boxing was just approved for a promoter's license in Nevada on Wednesday, with plans to launch with the upcoming Canelo vs. Crawford fight in September. Zuffa Boxing, the organization operating under TKO Boxing, is backed financially through Saudi Arabia and the General Entertainment Fund headed by Turkey. If the bill passes through Congress, it would land on President Donald Trump's desk for approval. Oof. That's heavy. If the bill passes through Congress, it would land on President Donald Trump's desk for approval. And that is one phone call away from getting signed. You got the Boxing Commission Board of Directors in unanimous support. It sounds like this might go through, bro. That's insane. There's already betting precautions, is there not? I guess fighters can bet on other fights, and UFC fighters can't bet on fights. $150 a round times 10 rounds. That's $1,500. $1,500 for training for like a month and a half to 3 months is insane. You make $1,500 in a week being a server. I know a young boxer. I could ask him how much he made on his first couple. He signed a Golden Boy. And he's like a Golden Gloves champion. So, I mean, he had a credential. So maybe he gets paid a little bit more decent. But if you kind of win regional tournaments and you maybe place second or third in Golden Gloves, they don't pay you as much as if you were like a champ, you know? Or an Olympic gold medalist and shit like that. Like, obviously, Shakur signs to good money, right? Because he's an Olympic silver medalist. But, guys who maybe were, like I said, silver, bronze, and Golden Gloves, they might get a contract, but they're not necessarily going to get a big old contract. They might get something along the lines like $150 a round. More or less. What I want to know though is uh, what is the Muhammad Ali Act? Okay, let me just go ahead and shut that down real quick. The Muhammad Ali Act is a federal law that was introduced in 1999, passed in 2000, protect the rights and welfare of boxers, aid state boxing commissions with the oversight of boxing, increase sportsmanship and integrity within the boxing industry. The act amends the 1996 Professional Boxing Safety Act by expanding upon legislation against exploitation, conflict of interest, enforcement, as well as additional amendments. The act was enacted in response to widespread abuse of boxers by means of exploitation, rigged rankings, and rigged matches. So then they just did away with rankings or something. Interesting. So it says the act received several criticisms. One criticism was that the act provides rules but leaves the enforcement of these rules to the state without defined guidelines, which is the same thing as the UFC somewhat. Other criticism stems from the belief that Congress has no purpose regulating the boxing industry, as there is no precedent of Congress regulating any other sport. In 2016, a bill was introduced to Congress by politician, former MMA artist, mixed martial artist Mark Wayne Mullen to extend the Ali Act to MMA. Oof.